A quick hello and we're good to go. Welcome to the show, Erika Enge.
Why, thank you, Jason, for having me. I'm going to do that without the singing part, though.
Yeah, what I loved about that is that you suddenly came to life at the end. That was a brilliant piece of acting. Now, what I know about you is you've done boatloads of videos about digital marketing over the years. I've watched loads of them. And so you're more professional than I am?
Well, I have more experience.
Thank
Why
you.
do we say that? Sometimes we've been rather unprofessional in our videos, so maybe, we got to choose our words carefully here.
Yeah, I loved them. I mean, they're great. They were highly recommended to anybody who's interested in digital marketing. Eric's videos are absolutely amazing with Mark.
Yeah.
We're at SMX West. You're sponsoring
Yes.
and giving a talk,
Yep.
multiple talks.
Yes.
Great. One of which is about the convergence of SEO with content or something.
Yes, something along those lines, yes.
Can you give me the proper title?
If I remembered it, I think it's driving great SEO gains through content.
Thank you. Okay. And but what I'm interested in looking at is how content is now less pure SEO and much more a marketer's tool, and that any content we create should be more for marketing.
Yes.
Have I represented it reasonably well?
Yeah, and we'll get there, but just to tie it back to the SEO piece.
I did tell you if I didn't ask the right question, you ask it.
That's okay.
What's the question?
So, no, I think what I'd like to do is start a little bit with what Google is doing that drives this convergence, if you will, between SEO and content.
Okay.
And I mean, the big thing is we've been tracking Google updates since March of 2018 when all these core algorithm updates started coming out, and we looked at hundreds of sites and we saw who went up and who went down and did a lot of analysis. And at the end of the day, a couple of clear trends emerged. One is Google's getting really deeply into refining its understanding of user intent.
Brilliant. Okay.
So one example query that we tracked in detail is the query digital cameras. If you look all the way back before the first update.
Which is incredibly ambiguous.
Yes, it is.
Okay, right.
And before the first update, what you would have seen is in positions 1 and 3, you would have seen digital camera review sites.
Okay.
And in positions 2 and 4, you would have seen e-commerce sites.
Okay.
All right.
So it's hedging its bets between, am I looking to inform myself or actually buy?
Right, but there's a slight emphasis in favor of the review sites.
Good point.
Right. A few months later, after a couple of these core updates, you're down to one review site and it's in position 3. And by the time you get to September of 2018, the review sites are completely gone from the results.
And that business model's just gone down the pan, yeah?
Yes. But by gone from the top 4.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I mean, not totally gone. And of course, ranking for many long-tail queries and things like that.
Sorry, I was oversimplifying, but it's changed the format of what Google's showing because it's saying, okay, we're looking to buy?
That's what they've decided, that it's a commercial experience. And fast forward to today, and the depth and density of things related to buying digital cameras, it dominates everything, not even above the fold, but the next layer below the fold.
Just sales?
It's just all commerce stuff.
Can I ask a question though?
Yes,
is that they've figured out what the intent is, or that they want to sell because they're becoming a sales engine?
Well, of course Google wants to make money, but they can't do that at the expense of user satisfaction.
Okay.
All right, I mean...
And we often forget that, don't we?
They could push the envelope a little bit. They can't push it, sorry for my bad English here, a lot of it. Okay, a little bit, not a lot of it.
That sounds like Spam-A-Lot, the Monty Python theatre piece. Brilliant, okay.
It does. So, but anyway, that's one of the major
I'm going to call you John Cleese from now on.
No, you can if you want to.
Thank you, John. Carry on.
All right, awesome. So, on top of that, though, the other thing we saw is that sites that were doing a really good job publishing a depth and breadth of high-quality content. Yeah. And this is what ties back to our main topic for today. Yeah. We're doing outstanding in these results. And some sites we saw that were publishing a ton of content, but the quality wasn't quite there. They might spike up in one of the updates and come whipping back down in the next one, and back and forth, and it was very volatile. But the people who were really steady state with outstanding content just got outstanding results across the board.
Kept going up and up and up and up.
Yeah, so...
It wasn't hockey stick, but it was kind of multiple little mountains going up.
Yeah, exactly. So Nerd Wallet. It's just it's climbing like crazy.
Nerd Wallet?
Yeah, it's a financial information site.
But you have to be a nerd to know about it, because I don't know about it.
Yeah, evidently. So you don't have a Nerd Wallet.
No, I don't have a Nerd Wallet.
So, but this is where it starts to get really interesting to our main topic for this conversation, which is, okay, what we saw in all this is that Google is starved for good content.
Oh, that's an interesting point. Oh, can I quote you?
You can.
Google is starved for good content. Eric Enge.
There they are. That they are. And so if we realize that, and that they're rewarding that almost consistently through all these algorithm updates, then maybe I ought to think about how I can do with more of my content on my site.
Which brings us back to the idea, as a marketer, I should be comfortable making great content for my audience that's valuable to my audience.
Yes.
Whereas I'm less comfortable trying to do the SEO tricks of counting words or getting lots of inbound links.
Exactly.
So it's playing into my strengths as a marketer.
It is, and then it's going to play into our strengths as marketers another way, too.
Brilliant.
So, and that is that if you get out of the mode of creating content just on the high volume keywords, which so many people do with their websites.
Yeah,
Okay.
I always wondered, like, if you rank for white paint, but you're a tiny little shop in a small town, and you get loads of orders for white paint, you've aimed at this keyword, you've managed to rank for it, let's say, you can't possibly fulfill the orders.
Well, there is that, but I also maintain that if you don't do the right things, if you just build content for high volume keywords, you're going to.
It's not all about keywords.
There we go.
It's not.
About keywords.
Somebody walking by telling Eric Enge what he knows and what he doesn't.
There you go. Good seeing you. So, in any case, it's like if you focus just on the keywords, then you're not producing content that satisfies a large percentage of visitors to your site.
Okay.
Because, remember people, the story of the long tail of search. In the long tail of search, over 70% of the keyword volume goes to 5 and 6 and longer word keyword phrases, not the head terms. So if you build just for the head terms, you're not building for that mass of detailed needs. So part of how I like to illustrate that.
Well, I like this point. Yeah.
But just an example I like to use. Let's say someone types in the phrase Ford, Ford Focus.
Okay.
Okay. What do they really want? Well, maybe they're interested in information on Ford Focus. Duh. But the reality is, do they want the hatchback, the electric, the sedan?
Oh, right, yeah.
And then, oh, wait a minute. That phrase didn't tell you they wanted used or new. And if they want used, do they care about the year, the mileage range? They probably do. And I'm not even done yet. Wait a minute, I want to know whether I got the seat warmers, the seated steering wheel, the aluminum wheels, the moonroof and the sunroof.
But we don't say it.
So, well, if I create my content only about Ford Focus generally, I'm not addressing all that other stuff.
Okay.
Now, e-commerce sites that sell cars, used and new, they get all this and they actually address all these things mostly, some better than others. But the reality is we need to apply the same thought process to how we think about content on our site. It, by nature, needs to be layered and deep, because that's the only way I'm going to satisfy a large percentage of visitors to my site.
But each individual piece of content doesn't need to be deep. But
Not
the
each one.
overall content.
They can cross-link to each other, and you can cross-reference other.
Yeah, because the skyscraper thing where you write incredibly long articles that explain everything is very difficult to consume. And if I do search for something detailed, I have to find it in there.
Right.
But if I create multiple articles linked together within a section, that's really easy for the user and for Google.
Right, exactly. And I'll tell you right now that there are people watching this who are into UX that are streaming, what about simplicity of design?
Yeah.
And what about the mobile experience? And it's like, you know what? If I have diabetes, the fact that I'm using my mobile device to do my research did not change the amount of content I want.
Yeah.
And so the answer to that is in UX design. So this is where you use accordions and things to streamline the presentation of the content and cross-linking to other pieces of content. So if the user wants to drill down into different areas and get different answers, can get them. Because one person looking for information, I use diabetes, that's kind of a deep example, but let's say something about flowers, right? And they want to know something specific about planting flowers, say. You take 10 users who come to your site about planting flowers and ask them what they're interested in learning, you won't get the same answers from all 10 users.
No.
If
Will-
they-
will,
if
you-
they
will
write-
you- will you get 10 different answers, or will you get crossovers where a couple of
Well,
people
there'll be
say
a
the
little
same
bit
thing?
of crossover, and so, I mean, there'll be some crossover for sure, but I mean, each one will, no two will be identical.
Okay, so
And of the 10, if they each identified 5 things they were interested in, so you would probably get, I don't know, 30 different things in the list of things they look for.
okay,
And so understanding how content needs to be layered and deep is why I see a marketer's vision of what to do with content marrying up with an SEO's vision.
yeah, okay. And can I push that further and say let's
I don't
let's
know, we'll
forget
see.
about let's forget about Google for a moment and saying if my content is shareable, let's say I can get it out to the social networks and it's useful and
Yeah.
valuable and I get engagement, that's the right kind of content. And it's the right kind of content for me now, both for Google and for the social networks and perhaps for other platforms where I could place that content.
Absolutely, and to just take that a step further, another way to think about it.
We just keep pushing
The envelope, yes.
Brilliant, thank you.
Exactly. So just think about it this way. Let's say you're a new entrant you may not be a new entrant to a market, but let's say you're a new entrant in creating content in a given market.
Yeah,
Okay. The last thing you need to do is to create a set of Me Too content. Your mentality should be, what can I do to create, excuse the language, the best damn content on the web on this topic?
yeah, okay.
Because that's how you're going to attract the attention from users, from potential linkers, from other marketers. That's how you're going to convert people into buyers. It all comes together.
And yeah, and that idea of saying I'm going to copy what somebody else is doing and try and just perform better is fighting on a market that, or a space that's already owned.
Yes.
But also another point is what do I have that the others don't have? What
Yeah.
value can I bring that others don't bring and create content around that?
Right. Differentiation always matters.
Okay.
So you need to do that with your content, as same as anywhere else. You know, if you were creating a recipe site, we don't need another article on how to make French toast.
Yeah.
As I've tell many people, that's one of my favorite lines is, it's like been over 25 years since I've had French toast. I can still tell you how to make it.
Yeah, so the only people looking how to make French toast are students who have just left home and their
Yes.
mother or father always did the cooking for them.
Right, well,
and they're desperate.
but there's also thousands of articles that already answer that question.
Yeah,
So how's your new one going to do anything?
yeah, no, very good point. So in the recipe space, you need to make a new recipe.
Correct.
But then nobody's searching for it.
No, you got to figure out how to create recipes that relate to things that people are searching for that but bring wholly new angles.
Or you create the demand around your product, which is educating.
Yes.
And I'm looking at this, my personal example right now is I'm talking about brand SERPs.
Yeah.
What comes up when somebody Googles your brand name, your exact match brand name?
Yeah.
What does it matter? How can you control it? What can you do to control it? And how can you make it accurate, positive, and convincing?
Yeah.
And nobody really is talking about that at the moment. And I'm trying to get that into the conversation by creating loads of
It's a
content.
good conversation. Yes.
Which is why I just plugged it in my own podcast. Plugging on your own podcast is pretty sad, isn't it?
Well, you know, maybe it works. So let's see what happens.
So, okay, we've got the content. I mean, you were talking about what type of content. What video? You've made loads of video.
Yes.
And I was talking to Lauren Baker about video and repurposing it. What are your thoughts on that? Because you do video and you do the transcript
Yes.
systematically.
Yes. So, I mean, video is a great medium. I mean, you know, on these kinds of devices, these kind of devices, video is an awesome medium,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, it's great on desktop devices too, but in particular on mobile devices, people love video and consuming video.
Yeah.
It's a great way to reach out. YouTube is a pretty good sized search
Yeah.
engine. A lot of those YouTube videos get sucked into Google, and you know, people love the format. It's very good at things that require visuals. Even if all you're doing is sharing pretty charts, data-driven charts. See right here, people. All right, we don't have one right now, but
I'm going to put one onto the video just
There you
to
go.
know, yeah.
you know, it's a very effective way of communicating. So I think you can draw a lot of attention with that, and that is actually one of the ways you differentiate. Is it isn't just with the nature of the content, but the channel you use to communicate
Yeah.
it, or the format you use to create the content. So video versus infographic versus data-driven research
Yeah.
versus, those are types of content. And then there is channels, which is you focus on social or YouTube
Here's a question, because I'm looking at it saying I'm creating this video and I'm going to try and make it valuable to my business on its own, just on YouTube.
Yep.
And then Google's a bonus.
Yep.
How far can I push that with other types of content? I.e. saying I create content for a channel that isn't Google, and I make sure it's valuable, I make sure it's useful, I make the content valuable and pay me back as a business on the channel I've created it for, and then push it out onto Google as a bonus.
Yeah.
Is that my new idea? I just made it up.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but if you're doing that, you're coming kind of purely from the place of creating really good or great content. That's not a bad place to start.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's, I think, one of the big lessons is, like, if you start treating you know, SEO is important. Made my living in it for 20 years, more,
Yep.
20, and that, and so, but if you like treat it like it's the only thing,
Yeah.
you're going down the wrong path.
Well,
So
that's what I'm trying to, or I'm getting really into, because I mean, we met a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
and at that time I was still an SEO,
Yeah.
and now I'm pushing out and saying, actually, it isn't that important, and if I can, new theory, make my content, what I'm creating, valuable in its own right in whatever platform I'm putting it out on, SEO is the bonus, which, I don't know, I feel like I've gone an awfully long way away from it.
Yes. Yeah, well, and SEO is still part of my DNA, but
Yeah.
you know, I got to have other parts to it too.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much. That was absolutely brilliant. A quick goodbye to end the show. Thank you, Eric.
My pleasure. Still not singing it back to you, but anyway.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Brilliant stuff. Was that good?
Yeah.
Great.
All right.